Okay, all right. So I think we are live. And Nicky, if you're there, yes, you are there.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So for those that don't know, I'm Louise. I'm Chief Operating Officer for EventWell, and myself and Helen, my colleague, who's CEO for EventWell, we've kind of been responsible for putting this digital summit together. And so far so good. Today, our first day, it's been great. Lots of great sessions. And obviously we've got tomorrow coming up with even better sessions. So it's going to be a jam-packed couple of days. But welcome to all of those attendees that are with us right now. And yeah, so just a bit of housekeeping. So if you just make sure that your mics are switched off. Obviously, Nicky, you keep yours on. And then on the right-hand side here, we've got a bit of a chat box. So chat is really if you want to type a general message, or comment on anything that Nicky's saying. Participants, you can see who's with us, attendees at the moment, if you want to send a direct message to anyone there. And then Q&A is if you've got any questions for Nicky, type it in the box there. And then we will run through those at the end. So Nicky's going to give us a bit of a talk for the next 30 minutes. Yeah, so Nicky, I'm just going to fire over to you. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for the intro, Louise, and welcome to everyone. I'm just going to share my screen, and we've asked the technology fairies to be very kind. So if I minimise that. Oh no. Okay, let me just see how this works. So I think. I don't know.
Yeah, so if you just go to, oh, you were there, the presentation was there.
Oh, you could see that, could you? There we go.
Yeah.
So if we just start the presentation.
Perfect.
So, okay, cool. So, yes, body boost, building blocks for better mental health, better physical health, sorry. I have a very good personal story for being so passionate about physical well-being, and our physical health, I think, massively helps our mental health. So we're just going to talk about what happens when you're under stress and what you can actually do about it. Talk a bit about sleep and a few tips for having more of it. Looking at nutrition and hydration and the role they play in your life, and how to actually change if we've decided that we wanted to, to bring in more routines and techniques for our physical health. How can we actually do that? So have a think about how you look after you. So obviously in the events industry, it's very busy, often very time pressured. And I was just saying to Louise, after putting this 2-day event together, I'm sure Louise and Helen will be feeling the stress in their physical health. So how do you actually ensure that you have that physical resilience, that bounce back ability? So if you have put heart and soul into into an event, how do you recover from that? And also, how do you make sure you've got that energy and that resilience to keep you going through that event? And when we're doing this in a physical workshop, I normally say, hands up who has a to-do list, and everybody raises their hands up, and I say, hands up who has well-being on it, and no one usually puts their hand up, and hands up who has fun on their to-do list. But very often when we're really busy, we focus on, I must do this and I have to do that, and our mental health and our physical health tend to be put down the bottom of the list. So sometimes as you flop into bed, on an evening, you can look back over your day and think, I've absolutely done nothing for myself and nothing to look after my health. So in 2010, I had just launched a new business. I was 12 weeks into this new business, and I was living on 4 hours sleep a night. I was drinking lots and lots of coffee. Part of the business, there was a cafe in it, so I was eating a lot of cake. But I wasn't being kind to myself. This was my new venture. It was my dream business, but I decided that for the first 6 months, I would work really hard before getting any help into the business. I had a couple of part-time staff working with me, but mostly it was me. And I was probably, 80, 90 hours a week would have been probably an easy week for me at the time. And my background, I'm a management accountant by original profession, but then I'd qualified in holistic therapy, so Reiki, reflexology, Indian head massage. I had anatomy and physiology A levels. I'd put stress management schemes into corporations like the MOD and other organisations. So I knew all about wellbeing. But when this was my business and the stakes were high in making this work, and I'm sure you can think of times when you've had something to do in your life where failure was not an option. All my wellbeing techniques went out of the window, and as I say, I was working these ridiculous hours and really feeling it. So my husband decided that we would go away for a weekend scuba diving, because that was our hobby, that was how we relaxed. And I hadn't actually dived, this was in the July, I hadn't actually dived that year, which is just unheard of. So we went for a weekend's diving. I didn't dive very well. My dry suit was kind of quite tight. I joked that it shrunk over the winter, but I think it might have been the cake that had a lot to do with that. But I wasn't well after the dive, and long story short, I wrote a whole book on my story. I actually suffered the bends. I had a muscular, skeletal and cerebral bend when too much nitrogen gets trapped in your body. But the cerebral bend caused a stroke. So I've just turned 40. I had 4 very active growing up teenagers at home, a 12-week-old business. I couldn't use my left arm at all. My left hand was just like this weak shell. I couldn't feel my left leg. I couldn't drive my car. So I couldn't actually get to this dream business that I'd created. Thankfully, I knew how to get better, but it was a long old journey. And I would suggest that not something that you have time for if you are running running your business or, working in the events industry. But within 3 years, I was completely fit and well. And that was where Discover Your Bounce was born, because people kept saying to me, you look really bouncy, you look like Tigger today. And so I realised that I had discovered my bounce. So bounce is all about kind of mojo, energy, our joie de vivre, the kind of energy that we have for our life. And there are some easy ways to look after yourself, but you need to actually include them in your everyday. So just some of the things, none of this is rocket science, but it's just when we're busy, we don't tend to do this. So just maybe there's some reminders in here that will help you kind of nudge to bring more of your physical well-being into your everyday. So how do you physically react to stress? Over the last 3 years, we've worked with about 2,500 employees in a variety of organisations and charities. And some people will get very loud, very vocal when they're stressed. Other people will go really quiet. Some people will eat more. Some people will eat less. Some people will sleep more. Some people will sleep less. And so it's very much a personal thing. So have a think about how you react to stress. What are your characteristics? Because I would suggest that perhaps you need to let your team members know what your characteristics are when you are under stress, just so they can notice. Because I definitely know in my experience, I had no idea how bad things were getting for me. And, people around me were kind of saying, how are you? And I'm fine. Fine in my book now means freaked out, insecure, neurotic and exhausted, because fine is the label that we put on when we really just either don't want to talk about how bad things are, or we have no idea how to get us out of those. So when you are under stress, it is good to know your colleagues and how they react, so that you can spot them and you can say, how are you? But how are you really? Because sometimes we do need to ask that second time. But under physical stress, our body reacts with fight or flight. So great when you're, just about to be chased by a bear. Not so great when you're sat in front of a laptop, because the stress hormones that are produced are worked off when we either run or we fight. So when we're at a laptop, our stress levels are kind of running this background stress, which is just not good for us. So when we have the fight or flight response, when something happens and that response gets kicked off, instantly our body gets flooded with adrenaline and cortisol, ready to fight or run. all our energy goes to our muscles, ready to fight or flight. Our bladder and bowel stop working because you don't want to need a visit to the bathroom when you're just about to be running away from a bear. So all our kind of physical, all our digestion, it all stops. Our eyes widen. We have this peripheral vision because we're trying to look for threats. And so it's all the things. The body is perfectly designed to handle some kind of instant, short stress. But if that stress goes on and it doesn't actually switch off, we're supposed to kind of fight a bear, go back to our tribe, kind of have a good meal and then sleep for a good 8 hours, and then the body can reset itself. But when stress just stays on, what happens is we get things like IBS and kind of tummy issues, intolerances to things, reflux, acid indigestion, because we can't digest our food properly. This peripheral vision and the wide-eyed effect, we take in too much light, we get headaches and migraines and eye strain, those kind of things. Most people, if you say, how do you respond to stress, that their shoulders go up because they're kind of poised, ready to kind of take on some unknown enemy. So again, musculoskeletal disorders, all those kind of things. So, stress is supposed to switch on and switch off. And so it's really good to kind of know that and to take time to, to just go back, to reset yourself. So if you have a busy few days or a kind of busy week, then having some restorative time at the weekend, they say the brain resets with sleep and silence. And I would say that, sleep, good food, all those kind of things are really good to reset the body as well. So, we talked about this stress response, and as I say, the blood leaves our core. So anything like digestion, it just takes a second, takes a back seat while we're doing this. So have a think about, if you are actually stressed, think about what you can do about that. How can you take a reset? Do you, after busy periods, actually take some time off? Do you put your phone away and stop using your laptop past a certain point at night? Because we have, all our devices have this blue light that just isn't very good for sleep patterns. So we might sleep, but maybe not in the right way. And we're going to talk a little bit about sleep in a moment. But when we're talking about hormones, these are our feel-good hormones. So having a dose, it kind of allows you to remember these hormones. And so, dopamine is our reward hormone. So it's very good for motivation. And they do say that, when we have alerts on our phone, if there's a notification on our phone or someone's commented on something on LinkedIn, then that will give us a dopamine hit, sure. So that's why we can get very addicted to our phones. But dopamine, like I say, if you tick off something on your to-do list and you give yourself some time to go, yeah, I did a good thing there, rather than right, quick, what's next? Then we get this feel-good hormone, dopamine, and it's been a lack of dopamine has been linked to things like Alzheimer's and depression, Alzheimer's and dementia. Sorry. So by rewarding yourself, by knowing all the good stuff that you've done, by looking back and reflecting on what you've done, that will give you a good dose of dopamine. So that's one of the hormones. Oxytocin, obviously social distancing has meant we haven't been able to hug our nearest and dearest, but we can still hug our pets. So oxytocin, you get feelings of trust and motivations, and it allows us to feel secure in our relationship. When a woman gives birth, her body is flooded with oxytocin. It's the kind of love hormone, and it just really allows us to feel connected to something bigger. But as I say, if you've got a cat or a dog at home, then you can get oxytocin that way too. Serotonin, this is our happiness hormone. Like you say, feeling significant, but also accepting ourselves. And being comfortable with the people around us. Even if you do a fake smile, like a real cheesy grin, then actually you still produce serotonin. So you can trick your body into producing serotonin. And things like, with most of these, things like meditation and exercise are really good. So doing some meditation before bed, if you can do like a 20-minute meditation, there's lots of apps like Calm and Insight Timer and Breathe, lots of different apps. If you do a 20-minute meditation before bed, you're very serotonin rich, and that means that when you do sleep, you get into REM sleep, like the deep sleep that helps us with our healing. Endorphins. So this feeling of euphoria to mask physical pain. So you've heard people that, you know, when they've broken their leg, that they don't actually feel anything straight away. That's because the body gets flooded with endorphins during that kind of physical stress. Chocolate, dark chocolate gives you endorphins. Also spicy foods, you can get endorphins from that too, as well as exercise. You know, I'm not a runner naturally, but I have started I've done the Couch to 5k, and I ran a 10k last year, and I kind of call it that retrospective enjoyment, you know, that feeling afterwards that you have done something good. It's definitely, you know, part of improving our mood. So have a think about those hormones, and as I say, meditation or exercise, you know, dark chocolate, massage. I know our massage therapists are about to be back to work soon, and definitely, you know, can't come soon enough for me. But these are the hormones that counterbalance that adrenaline, cortisol kind of rush to the body. So sleep, have a think. On a regular basis, do you get really good restorative sleep? Because they do say that we're supposed to get between 7.5 and 8 hours sleep to feel good and to look after our own health. I've realised that after the stroke, if I sleep between 8 and 9 hours a night, then I'm very resilient, my mood is very good, and the rest of life can be very busy, and I can manage really, really well. But, you know, sometimes after a big event, you don't sleep. They say that one night's bad sleep can reduce our mood by 30%. When we don't sleep enough, we don't get serotonin, which regulates our appetite. That's one of its other jobs. So we do want to eat more the next day to kind of replace the fat, you know, replace that energy that we would have got through sleep. If we have done a meditation, as I say, then you go deep into sleep and you stay in that REM sleep for longer. So things like healing, recovery, you know, healing bruises, things like that. If you're not getting enough REM sleep, then your body will just take longer to do that. And a lack of sleep has been linked to a lack of immunity. And when fight or flight switches on, immunity switches off. So during these interesting times, as I think they've been called, looking at sleep and actually recovery and being in that calm state is really vitally important for us having that immunity and that ability to heal ourselves and to fight off any kind of bugs that happen to be around. So if you do struggle to sleep, like I say, you can no tech for a few hours before sleep. They say caffeine takes 6 hours to get out of our body. So you might say, well, I go to sleep fine, but you might not sleep deeply enough. So they reckon that I did an extra bit when I did my reflexology. I actually did a project and I focused on sleep. So they say that 60% of the time when we wake up through the night is either that we're too hot, too cold. There's a kind of physical problem that wakes us up. So making sure the room is dark, as I say, caffeine 5-6 hours before bed. As I say, with tech, if you have too much tech, you can actually get glasses with a blue filter in. I've discovered during lockdown, apparently, because so many of us have been zoomed out and kind of constantly on our tech. So you can filter out that light, but not having tech in your bedroom, having an old-fashioned alarm clock rather than your phone, because when you have your phone, as you're going to sleep, you might think, oh, did I do that? Did I do this? And go and check, or just, checking one last check of emails before bed is not a good idea, because then you will notice, there could be one email that could start you worrying about the next day. So tech-free bedroom where possible. Also making sure you've drunk enough, because the kind of renewal process that the brain goes through, I call it brain hoovering, but it's glymphatic system in our brain. So like lymphatic in our body, the glymphatic system in our brain actually gets away any kind of matter or toxins in our brain, but it dehydrates us a little bit to do that. So we can wake up really thirsty or wake up in the night feeling thirsty. So a glass of water before bed and then a glass of water the next morning will just give your brain the kind of, the water that it needs to kind of do the things that it needs to do. So yeah, sleep, I could go on, but things like a pillow spray can really help. There's a lovely app called Rain that is just like thunderstorms or rain on a tent or kind of those natural noises that can be really good for settling you to sleep. And sleep is habit forming. I find now when I put the Rain app on, my brain kind of goes, oh, there's that thing that we sleep to. So I get to sleep really, really quickly. But again, it's about finding what's best for you, that kind of personal recipe. And the same with nutrition. So I would say that we all probably know the nutrition that we need and we know what's good for us. But when we are really busy, as I say, our brain gets just caught up in that to-do list. I must do this and I must do that. And maybe food is grabbed on the hop. I find lockdown been really great because I'm at home. I can actually plan what I'm going to eat and maybe take some time to make a smoothie. And it's not that a smoothie takes a long time. I've got it down to about 3 minutes and a NutriBullet. But when you go, oh right, I've got to be out of the house by then, and what about traffic? And making sure you have all the things that you need for the rest of your day if you're going to be out of your house, then it's just you don't necessarily have that brain space to plan. Or if you haven't been shopping, for example, you haven't got the right things in the fridge, then it is just a case of grab what's there. But they do say if we can eat colourful fruit and vegetables, so if we can eat the rainbow, then actually we get all the nutrition and the minerals and the vitamins and the trace minerals that we need for that balanced diet to repair, for our body to repair itself and build immunity. So, sometimes think about how can I get all those rainbow foods in, and things like beetroot, for example. In the winter, the kind of oranges and reds are really restorative for us. So like root vegetables or peppers, those kind of things. So have a think about what you can do, and also eating local fruit and veg and kind of in season fruit and veg. If you see on your strawberries that they came from Israel and you're in England, then chances are they've had a bit of a journey, and I would argue that perhaps they don't have the same amount of nutrition as if something that's been picked very close to you. Or they do say that actually, the freezing process, particularly in peas, that was a thing recently, that frozen peas are actually more nutritious for us because they're frozen at the point of picking. So just have a think about what can I do around my nutrition? And nutritionists, we have expert nutritionists that work with us. I'm not a nutritionist myself, but they were saying try to shop around the outside edge of supermarkets. So all the meat counter, the fish counter, the fruit and veg, all the good stuff is around the outside, and in the middle is all the beige stuff. And so a beige diet is not necessarily good for us. Doesn't mean that you can't have any. I'm absolutely in favour of the odd cake or bit of chocolate or glass of wine, or but it's about balance. And if you do want the energy for a really busy life, then think about that nutrition. How can you build more good nutrition in your diet? How can you just maybe adding a fruit or a veg to every meal and just seeing if you can build up that way. Because again, when we're busy, if it's not on the list, if it isn't already in the cupboard or the fridge, then chances are it won't happen. And then we go, oh, I must do this, or we beat ourselves up over the things that we're not doing. Whereas just trying to add a few simple things in, you can get to the end of the week and go, well, at least I ate okay, even if other things didn't go so well. So really good test. Are you hydrated? The feet on the left, I would suggest that person needs to go and get a bottle of water or two. The feet on the right, you'll see have this plump kind of look about them. And the idea is that the kind of the hydration test, if you poke your thumb into the middle of the ball of your foot, if it springs back really quickly, then you're hydrated. If your thumbprint stays in your feet, when I was doing some reflexology training, my thumbprint stayed on this woman's foot for a whole 30 seconds before it sprung back. So really easy test. And then it's just a case of, either having a bottle of water on your desk and kind of making, have it visible so you can see it and you'll drink it, or, set yourself a reminder on your phone just for a couple of weeks that just comes out, 2 or 3 times a day that just says drink water. And then that message will sort of, get to your subconscious, and you'll find that you're naturally doing that. Herbal teas can be counted as your water, but the ideal is actually just more of the fresh stuff. So in our workshops, we kind of do this as a discussion. But if you've got a pen and paper, then just think about, what does good health look like for you? Because it will be very different for different people. And lockdown some people I've been speaking to, lockdown's been brilliant for them. They've started, great new routines around their fitness and their nutrition. For other people, particularly if people have been on furlough, for example, or if there's been uncertainty around what they're doing, then their healthy habits have maybe gone out of the window. But if you start with what good looks like, in an ideal world, if I had a magic wand, what would you include in your fitness? Would it be things like energy levels, to make sure you have the energy to run around and do the things in life, do the things that you need to do in a working week, but also have energy left over to support family and friends, to support people? Because if you have given everything else to everyone else, then maybe there'd be a really exciting opportunity that would come up, and you would want the energy to make sure that you could do that. So what does good health look like for you? Start with that plan. We talk a lot in our workshops around vision. We've got a workshop this week about what is your vision and how can you create your vision and get more of the things that you want in your life. Start with the end in mind. Like, say, what does good look like? Is it good sleep? Is it having the energy? Is it more fitness? Have a think about what you want to do, and then write down just some steps to take, but make sure they do go on your to-do list. And maybe on a Sunday before the working week starts, if your working week does go Monday to Friday, but the day before your working week starts, just write down some things, maybe get some food in the fridge, write down things in your diary, put appointments in your diary or alerts, so that your health comes first. And any fitness that I'm going to do, I usually put in my diary a couple of weeks ahead, just so that I don't look at my day and go, I haven't got any time for that. So try and plan in the things you do, but also love the things you do. So, if running a marathon isn't your thing, maybe you could do a lovely walk in the countryside, or a mindful walk where you notice all the bird song and the beautiful green trees and the kind of vistas around you, because that's good for your physical health, but also your mental health. So write down the steps that you're going to take and find things that do fit in, because if you try and fit in too many things too soon, then that change won't happen, and you'll go back. You may regress even further from where you are now. So thinking about, are you ready for change? So what I usually say is, if you cross your arms and then cross your arms the other way. So it isn't right or wrong, it's just different. We get used to our routines, the things we do every day, and we get used to our comfort zone. Sometimes it's our discomfort zone. It's not a place where we want to be, but it's just known to us. It's what we know. And then we decide, right, I want to change. I'm gonna give up smoking, give up drinking, lose a stone, exercise 5 days a week. We think of all the things that we're going to do to change. And I call that our panic zone, because then nothing's known, and the brain goes into that fight or flight immediately, because it goes, whoa, hang on, I have no landscape, I don't know what I'm doing at all. And then what we usually do is give up and go back to that discomfort zone, because it was all too hard. And you hear people think, oh yeah, I tried that, it just didn't work for me. Well, maybe it just didn't work because you tried to do too many things. So think about one thing you can do. We call it the stretch zone. Add one good thing to your diary. Maybe it is a glass or two of water in a day, or a few fruit and veg. Then just fill things in little by little. and then just stay in that stretch zone. Mantras, these can really help. So I always have time for the good things. I always have time to look after me. I am safe. I am well. I trust myself. That was definitely a mantra I used. If you can't think of something, look at what you don't want. I don't want to do this, and then flip that into something positive. And so, I choose to, or I am, really positive statements, and then pin them up somewhere on a notice board, or at the back of the bathroom door, by your bed, somewhere you're going to see them. Have them as a screensaver, or set them up as an alert to come up on your phone. You can change them, you can work with them, but just having those positive intentions, then there's the reticular activating system in the brain. Your brain will start looking for all those good things. It will look for cues as to whether you're on the right track. And you'll notice, that the local fruit and veg store that you hadn't noticed opened because you were too busy, or you'll notice that you have an extra 5 minutes to do some stretching in the morning, things like that. So, it's not about changing everything all at once. It's just about changing one or two things at a time. And so, just to finish up then, think about your most important tasks. If you do want to create change, doing things like stepping forward with the other foot, your non-dominant foot, or brushing your teeth with the opposite hand, or using the mouse with your other hand, you can kind of build new neural pathways in the brain. So that's a whole subject in itself. Keeping a stress diary, sometimes you can notice when when things are more stressful. Maybe there's a pattern to your week, and maybe Wednesday really is hump day for you, and maybe there are some good things that you could put in to change that. As I say, the colourful fruit and veg, and I have a routine. Every time I walk downstairs in the morning, I just say, what one thing am I going to do that my body will thank me for, or how can I be a better version of myself today than I was yesterday? Because it's not about competition with anyone else. It's about just, looking at yesterday, and are there things that you can do to improve, and kind of noticing those. So just to kind of recap, we've looked at all those kind of building blocks for that physical health, and what happens when you're under stress, and what you can do about it. Because maybe it is a case of just taking 5 minutes to move away from your laptop, do some breathing, walk around the block, have a glass of water, make yourself a herbal tea. There are all sorts of things we can do to kind of reset if life does get too stressful. And the last thing, these are Sharon and myself's contact details. So if you do have any questions, or you have anything you want to ask, but as we think EventWell is just such a great organisation, we do weekly lunch and learn events on a Wednesday. There's the link at the bottom, the events link. But if you use the code EventWell 2020, capital E, you can get up to 4 of our workshops. There's a code set up for this month, so you can book in on up to 4 of our workshops. If you go to the events page, have a look at the workshops that we have going ahead, use that code, and if you're if you have been made redundant in your industry, or work isn't at its capacity, we would love to, or you're just on that personal development journey, we would love to actually give you a hand. And as I say, we are here to help. In the chat box, we have a community on Facebook called Discover Your Bounce Community. We've got over 400 members, and we do daily lives going in and doing snippets for wellbeing and positivity. So I would love to connect with you guys either there or on LinkedIn, where I'm on there most days as well. So that's the presentation. I think if I just exit, I can actually unshare my
if you press
screen.
unshare. Perfect. Amazing. Okay. Thank you so much, Nikki. That was really, really insightful, really, really helpful, really great presentation. I hope you all really enjoyed that. I'm just going to, so we've got a couple of questions, but before we move into the question and answer session, because we're obviously quite conscious that this EventWell Summit is very digital, so we're all sitting at our laptops a lot throughout the day. And tomorrow. So I just want to end this session before we go into Q&A with a bit of a breathing technique. So if you just want to sort of get comfortable in how you're seated, maybe hands on your knees, or close your eyes, whichever you feel comfortable with. We're just going to do a couple of deep breaths. So if you take a deep breath in and breathe in for 4 seconds, and then we'll breathe out for 4 seconds. Okay, so if we take a deep breath, breathe in. And breathe out for 4. And let's just do that again. So breathe in for 4. And breathe out. Lovely. So that kind of relaxes our mind a little bit. Yeah, so Nikki, thank you so much for that. We've had one question from Charlie, who said that she thinks your story is really, really inspiring. It absolutely is. It must have been incredibly scary time for you when your stroke happened. But Nikki wants to know more about your book. So can you share a link to where we can all find that?
Yeah, it's on amazon.co.uk, the UK site, and it's just rescued by the Coast Guard. And so I haven't got a copy to hand, but there's literally like my face on the front, so you'll know. But also I have an author profile, so if you search on Author Central for Nicky Marshall, then yeah, but Rescued by the Coast Guard it's called. It's got like an orange border and then me in the middle on amazon.co.uk. So yeah, and we've also done a collection of stories called the Bounce Back Journey, which was, we got 24 people to share their story of bouncing back. And at the moment, all the Kindle versions of our books are 99p. Actually, no, I can share our, just thought I can share our publishing page. We've only just published it during lockdown. I keep forgetting that it's there.
Oh, someone's just shared the link. Anna Marie, thank you very much for sharing that book. Oh, I think it's just for your book on Amazon. But
cool, there we go. I'll just put it in here. This is our publishing page where you can find out about the other books.
Amazing.
But yeah, I just find it really, really cathartic, kind of writing the story down, and kind of it gets you to piece it together. And again, on the events page that I shared, Sharon and I are doing, I think 23rd of July, we're doing an evening. She's asking me lots of questions about the bounce back journey and kind of how I
23rd of July.
You know, what worked. So again, the events link that I shared in the presentation.
Right.
It's just just a free event, and it's just a celebration. I think 5 till 7 in the evening. Come along, bring a glass of fizz or some nibbles or a herbal tea. Yeah, so she's just going to interview me and ask questions. But
great.
I think sometimes it's really good to look back and realize how far you've come.
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, and I think just writing in general and journaling is such a therapeutic way of getting your thoughts and feelings out. I used to be very, I guess, not anti it, but I couldn't bring myself to write down my thoughts and feelings, and then for whatever reason one day I just started doing it, and now I've got I think I've got about 3 journals worth of stuff. So I keep saying to myself, one day I'm going to write a book, but yeah, one day.
Yeah, and I think that reflection, just being able to look back and look at how far you have
absolutely
come.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a couple of comments in the chat box. I don't know if you saw them, but Charlie and Sarah both saying that their dogs have helped them through lockdown.
Toby, yeah. Oh, lovely man.
Toby, I mean, I saw a picture of Charlie's dog early. Toby looks cute, I must say.
And yeah, checking emails before going to sleep. You know, Sharon and I, both directors in a wellbeing business, and we had to kind of make a concerted effort that past, say, 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, no email. 100%. You know, you can set yourself a reminder to email the next morning.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you do start thinking about it. You know, your brain kind of
goes
you
have off. To switch off. I'm a big believer in switching off, and I think, you know, depending on what your schedule is like and what you're organising or whatever it may be, but if you're not, if something can wait until tomorrow, it can wait until tomorrow. Be just have to be, you know, strict with yourself. Yeah, sometimes it's difficult. I know very much that you shouldn't look at technology before you go to sleep, and reading's the best way. And I'm a big believer, actually, that the bedroom is for sleeping, so no TVs or anything technological. But I do look at my phone. I've found this recently. I found this ridiculous word game In fact, I've been obsessed during lockdown called Wordscapes. And I know I shouldn't look at my phone, but actually I look at it before I go to sleep, and it actually sends me to sleep because it's because I'm trying to think of too many words that you have to find on this thing. So
Yeah, one of the things, because they put, in the UK they put thrillers on at 9 p.m. Line of Duty and all those kind. I really like the kind of suspense thrillers, but I have to record them and then watch them at tea time the next day, so that otherwise, like you say, the fight or flight goes on and you're
you're
wired
wired.
before you go to bed.
Exactly.
Very true.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Did anyone have any other questions?
Oh, and Anna Marie just said about
Oh, here
her
we go.
poodle.
Mine is
Yeah,
talking about, oh, I'm so sorry, Anna Marie. That's awful.
yeah,
Oh, that's really sad. Yeah, I'm sorry that she
and that,
passed.
and they're part of our family, aren't they?
Yeah.
Dogs or
Yeah,
cats.
they really
So
are. I actually just, so before, well, 10 weeks ago, I was actually living in Grand Cayman, and I actually half looked after a dog, a Jack Russell called Mitzi. I'd had her for about 2 years where I've been looking after her. And obviously I've come back to the UK now, so I had to leave her with her real mother. But I really miss her, really, really miss her. It's amazing how much a dog brings to your life. So I completely now get it and sympathize with anybody
yeah.
that loses a pet, because I really do feel lost without her. Although I have just recently signed up to borrowmydoggy.com. So
Yeah, that's a good one, isn't
yeah,
it? And I think,
so
but yeah, it's about taking time for yourself, isn't it?
yeah,
And sort of being gentle.
yeah,
Um, thanks, Sarah. I enjoyed presenting the session. And as you said, we do need to put as much effort into looking after
absolutely.
ourselves. So one of my the kind of mission for the business is to make a difference.
Mm,
But I realize that you have to say to make a difference to myself,
mm,
then to my family and friends, and then to my clients, and then the
yeah,
business. You kind of need that order.
yeah,
So yeah, we talk about bounce back ability. If someone offered you something fantastic at the end of the working day, fancy having to say no because you don't have the energy, because you
yeah,
haven't looked after you.
yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Okay. Well, we're pretty much at the end now. So, but once again, thank you so much, Nicky, for sharing your story and sharing that presentation with us. That's great, great, great stuff. And thank you to all the attendees as well. Thanks so much for your comments. And obviously, if you want to catch Nicky, again, and obviously click onto her events page. And I know I'm definitely going to be downloading her book and I think giving that a read definitely at some point. Maybe we'll make it part of our book club, our EventWell book club at some point, because we've got
oh,
that
cool.
starting at the end of the month. So yeah, watch this space. But yeah, no, thanks again, Nicky, and yep, thanks to everyone else. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of our sessions today and tomorrow.
Yeah, and as I say, you've got that EventWell 2020 code, so do sign up for some free events and look after
Great.
yourself.
Thank
So
you, Nicky. All right. Thanks, everyone.
thank you.